you have Madame Kone from Mali, Madame Siata Scott Johnson from Liberia. You have Dr. Syriac Paris from Burkina Faso, and then Charlie Machal Ngunu from Cameroon. So I think we can start for now. We're waiting for Dr. Francis Sowa from Sierra Leone, who says that he will join a little later. Hello.
Hello, can we start now?
Yeah, so doctor, you can take over.
Okay. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to this webinar. I think there's a microphone which is on there, so there's a noise there. Someone has to.
Hi, Madam Scott. Madam Siata Scott Johnson, can you put your mic on mute? Oh, she's even left. She's left. Hi, Dr. Saleh, kindly proceed. Sorry.
Okay, so we are for this panel, for this webinar, we are welcoming panelists.
Hello?
She has yet to mute a microphone. Good morning, everyone. I hope you hear me. Wow. Hello.
Hello, Dr. Saleh, we can hear you.
So hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be speaking with you today. My name is Dr. Saleh. And first of all, a little bit about my background. I'm an academic and media researcher, a journalist. So I'll be your moderator for this panel, whose title is Mobilizing Against Digital Harassment and Journalists, the Role of Stakeholder. So today we're welcoming 6 panelists, 3 Francophone and 3 Anglophone. And I'll be speaking to this issue with, let's say, this moderation will be in 2 languages, French and English. The first panelist is Syriac Paris, Dr. Syriac Paris, who is a journalist and researcher and the founder of the online news magazine Faso.net. We also welcoming Mariam Kone, who is a journalist, a female journalist based in Mali, and Siata Scott Johnson, who is the chairwoman of the Female Journalists Association of Liberia, Elsa Sandrine Sawadogo, joining us from Burkina Faso, and Dr. Charlie Machal, I hope the spelling is right, data and digital rights expert based in Cameroon. So today we'll be discussing the following theme, mobilizing against digital harassment of journalists, the role of stakeholders. So welcome again to the webinar. So we're still waiting for 2 other panelists to join us. Dr. Francis Sowa will be joining us in let's say 1 hour. So welcome again to this panel. Alors, bonjour à tous et à toutes. Bienvenue à ce panel qui réunit donc 6 panélistes, 3 panélistes francophones et 3 autres panélistes anglophones. Nous avons Dr. Paré Syriac, journaliste et chercheur basé au Burkina Faso. Par ailleurs, fondateur du journal en ligne de Faso.net. Également Mariam Koné du Mali. Elsa Sandrine Sawadogo du Burkina Faso. Et Siaka Johnson, qui est la présidente de l'Association des femmes journalistes du Libéria. Stewart nous rejoindra un peu plus tard. Nous avons du Dr Charlie Martial Gonou, qui est expert dans le secteur du digital, qui est le président de Afro Leadership et qui, lui, nous vient du Cameroun. Alors, voici un peu présenté sommairement nos panélistes à qui nous aurons l'honneur de donner la parole pour qu'ils se présentent eux-mêmes. So, let's start with Dr. Charlie Martial Ngunu from Cameroon. Can you please introduce yourself for our audience?
Okay, thank you. And thank you for inviting me to this very interesting meeting. And I'm Charlie Martial Ngunu. I work here in Cameroon. I'm actually in my office. And I see someone saying that je ne vous entends pas. Do you follow me?
I am the moderator. I can understand you well. I think it's Mariam Kone from Mali who can hear us.
Yes, maybe she has little issue with
microphone.
Yeah, probably. So I work in the realm of, let's say, civic tech. I'm a computer tech myself that has turned a human rights activist. And in Cameroon and in several countries where we have representatives, we try to advocate for digital rights, data rights, and human rights online. And so we have been working with journalists and training some of them in how to tackle the constraints of online journalism. So I'm part of My Data Global. My Data is also an organization striving for digital rights and data rights. And I'm actually the coordinator for My Data Africa. So very happy to be involved in this activity. Thanks.
Okay. So now before coming to Syriac Paré from Burkina Faso, let me translate a little bit. Alors, Monsieur Dr. Charlie Martial Nganou est un expert du secteur donc, des droits digitaux. Il est dans le domaine de la société civile qui œuvre, n'est-ce pas, pour la démocratisation, l'accès aux droits digitaux pour toutes les populations et également pour lever toutes les contraintes et les blocages qu'il y a dans l'exercice de ces droits-là pour les populations. Il est également un coordinateur d'une organisation qui s'appelle My Data Africa, en plus d'être le président d'Afro Leadership. Donc, c'est quelqu'un qui nous sera d'une utilité, je l'ai dit, assez grande pour ce panel, donc qui va aborder également la question des droits digitaux. Je vais tout de suite demander à M. Syriac Paré Bon du Burkina Faso de se présenter à nos différents participants. So please, Syriac Bon from Burkina Faso, can you please introduce yourself for our audience?
Bonjour, je suis Syriac, je suis chercheur ancien de l'information et de la communication. Je travaille essentiellement sur le journalisme de la communication numérique, que j'enseigne aussi dans des instituts. J'ai mon propre institut de formation. J'ai un journal en ligne, le faso.net. Je pense que vous avez déjà dit l'essentiel. C'est pour moi un plaisir de partager mon expérience avec vous à travers ce panel et d'échanger sur ces questions qui nous préoccupent aujourd'hui avec le développement d'Internet et puis les menaces que cela peut porter à l'exercice du métier de journaliste dans nos pays.
Merci beaucoup. So Dr. Syriac Paré from Burkina Faso is very happy to join us today, and he will be speaking on sharing experience. He's the owner of a media institute in Burkina Faso and also the founder of a news magazine, an online news magazine, lefaso.net. So he will be sharing his past experience on teaching, let's say, journalists, but not also his experience as a journalist himself. So he's very, very happy to be with us. Now let's give the floor to uh, Siata Scott Johnson, the president of the Female Journalists Association in Liberia. Are you there, Siata? À présent, la parole à Siata Johnson Scott, qui est la présidente de l'Association des femmes journalistes au Libéria.
Hello, are you hearing me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Welcome again.
My name is Siata Scott Johnson. I'm the head of the Female Journalists Association of Liberia. The Female Journalists Association of Liberia is an association of women journalists from across the 15 counties in Liberia. So we are mandated to advocate for the rights of journalists, especially women journalists. We push for social justice, advocate for women rights across the country. I'm a women's rights activist, I'm a feminist, I'm a
Je suis une féministe, je suis une réalisatrice de films et une journaliste et je l'ai été pendant les 2 dernières années.
Défenseuse des droits de l'homme, elle est à la tête d'une organisation donc, de journalistes, de femmes journalistes, qui est représentée dans au moins 15 régions.
Journalists, which is found in about 15 regions in Liberia, and she's happy to be with us today. So we'll give the floor to Elsa Sandrine Sawadogo from Burkina Faso.
Sandrine, we are now coming to you. Sandrine is not there? Okay, so maybe Mariam Kone from a female journalist from Mali. Mariam Kone, bonjour. Est-ce que vous pouvez vous présenter à notre audience? I think there might be a technical issue with Mariam Kone and Elsa Sandrine. Muhib, can you please check if they are online and if they can hear us?
Hello, Dr. Slay.
Yeah, Muhib.
Yeah, I think we have Memuna Jadu Amadou from Niger.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes, and then we also have Mariam Kone from Mali.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
On va maintenant à présent au Niger avec Maimouna
We go into Niger with Maimouna Diadou, who will introduce herself in few words.
Can you please, Maimouna, share with us a little bit about your background? Maimouna, are you there? So Niger and Mali are missing. Mohit, can you please check if they are online or? Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, for me, I'm hearing you. I don't know if the others are hearing you, but I am.
I'm trying to connect with Media Foundation. Muhib, can you please hear me?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I think Niger and Mali are missing.
No, Memuna Jadu is on the line. She's raised her hand, but if you can't get her, maybe we can go ahead. You can later come back to her.
So let me remind this before we start. This year World Press Freedom theme was journalists under digital siege. And the theme actually focused on the safety and privacy of journalists and on access to information and the impact of modern digital technology on freedom of expression. So you might agree with me that this theme is appropriate. Since the safety of journalists has been an issue this last year. So more and more governments across the world, and especially in Africa, have acquired technology in this context of the COVID-19. They are using this technology to fight against terrorism and as a justification for also acquiring surveillance tools. But in most jurisdictions, the authority turn these tools against journalists and against political opponents and critics. So raising the issue of the harassment of journalists and the surveillance of journalists and media people. I must remind this report from Amnesty International, Forbidden Story, that revealed that over 50,000 phone numbers were targeted for surveillance using Pegasus and many other, let's say, tools. So discussing the issue, and we are trying to see from our experience, gather the tips to see how we can mobilize all the stakeholders and get them involved to fight for the rights of journalists and address the issue of these surveillance. So very quickly, I will start with Cyriac Paré. Alors, je disais comme ça que le cadre, donc, le thème de cette journée mondiale. Oui.
So I was saying that the theme of this World Press Freedom Day, journalism and the digital siege, is a theme that talk about the safety and security of journalists.
Comme ça, je vais demander à M. Cyriac.
I'll ask Mr. Syriac to give a state of the media landscape in Burkina Faso based on data from Burkina, reported Without Borders.
The state of freedom of expression in Burkina Faso at the time being.
J'aimerais que vous nous donniez un aperçu, un état des lieux de la situation de la liberté d'expression et de la presse au Burkina, s'il vous plaît.
Can you hear us? Can you hear me? On ne vous entend pas, Syriac.
Vous m'entendez maintenant?
Là, ça va, c'est mieux. Ouais.
C'est bon? Okay. D'accord. Alors, merci bien. Je disais que le Burkina Faso est passé de la 31e place l'année dernière à la 48e cette année, ce qui veut dire qu'il a perdu 4 places, qui s'explique donc par...
Burkina Faso fell from 31st to 41. Means that shows that the country has lost in terms of listing. We had internet shutdown and killings of journalists in Burkina Faso. We have the reviewing of the penal code, which made the environment more restrictive when it comes to then we have laws that severely punish violation of sharing of information in the country. with this environment, we face a regression when it comes to freedom of expression. Then we have a state of press freedom report that was made by the Centre de Presse Nobel Zongo. The center gave 2.5 on a scale of 5, which shows that it's an average when it comes to press freedom in the country. It shows clearly that the conditions have deteriorated. So when it comes also to the work of journalists, we see that there is a regression because of terrorism. We also have a deterioration when it comes to economic and when it comes to economy. And you know, when the economy is not flourishing in the country, we can see that media also are impacted in the country. So in a nutshell, this is what we are facing in Burkina Faso. If we have to compare to other countries, we will say that 41 in the index is not bad, but then this is a downfall from 4 points in the listing. And if you have to compare these states to the former years, we will say that it's not improving. I want to recall that we have a media landscape that is full of media. We have 160 radio stations, 32 TV stations, 145 online media. This is to say that we have a rich landscape when it comes to media outlets. Although when we are talking about legal framework and the economic context, it's not really favorable.
So very quickly, Dr. Syriac Paris from Burkina Faso says, Burkina Faso dropped in World Press Freedom Index ranking, so lost 4 places. The landscape of Burkina Faso media is actually very rich. 150 radio stations, 30 stations, 145 online news magazines, which means that the press landscape is very rich and diversified. The problem is the journalist safety has actually deteriorated sharply in recent years due to the increasing of tools of government surveillance in link with the issue of security, national security, like terrorism and everything. So the picture of the, let's say, the media freedom in this country is not actually as bright as we could think. Now let's move to Siata Scott Johnson, the president of Female Journalists Association in Liberia. Siata, can you give us an overview of the press freedom and safety of journalist situation in Liberia with reference to the latest Reporters Sans Frontières rating? Alors maintenant, Madame Siata Johnson.
We're giving the floor to Madame Siata Johnson from Liberia, so that she gives us the state of the media in her country based on RSF.
Thank you very much.
Merci.
Let me say thank you to the organizers and thank you to Malcolm Joseph for the deferment. As it relates to press freedom and access to information and digital harassment of journalists in Liberia, our ranking is a little bit fair. We were 75 on the World Press Freedom Index, which is 66.7, and we think it's fair.
Ce qui fait, nous savons qu'il y a encore des formes de harcèlement, mais lorsqu'il s'agit de la liberté d'expression physique comme en ligne, nous l'avons. Nous comprenons qu'il y a encore certaines formes de harcèlement numérique. Nous savons que le problème d'attaque contre les journalistes, l'attaque physique contre les journalistes diminue, même si nous avons encore quelques plaintes au niveau de l'union de presse. Mais nous voyons quand même la diminution des attaques physiques contre les journalistes. Au Libéria, le gouvernement est le seul et le plus grand publicateur de médias. Si le gouvernement n'est pas donc si le gouvernement n'est pas en accord avec ce que vous faites, ils ont la tendance d'étouffer les médias. Donc ce genre de problème est croissant. Le problème d'utiliser, il y a de nouveaux médias qui viennent de toutes parts. Le problème des médias étant utilisé comme arme est présent au Libéria. Donc, ils utilisent cela comme une arme contre nous. Donc, le gouvernement des fondements
gradually, and which
très indépendante est étouffée. Il y a également le problème de censure financière.
Because advertisements from people that feel that they are not going in the line they want to go. And then the financial censorship is also on both ways.
La censure financière. Nous avons des institutions de médias qui ne payent pas leurs travailleurs, que ce soit intentionnel ou pas, ils ne payent pas les travailleurs, ce qui rend les journalistes fâchés contre les. Donc, il y a le problème de politisation de la presse et nous voyons que le journalisme est sous l'emprise du numérique au Libéria. Et nous voyons qu'ils ont la capacité de mettre sous l'emprise du...
À Maïmouna Amadou Dado du Niger. Bonjour Maïmouna, et comment se porte la presse dans votre pays, la liberté d'expression, en rapport avec le classement de Reporters sans frontières? Maïmouna, vous êtes là, bonjour. On ira rapidement au Cameroun en attendant d'avoir Maïmouna. Alors, docteur Charlie Martial Ngounou, peut-être que vous pourrez assez rapidement, en quelques lignes, nous parler de la situation de la presse dans votre pays. Merci.
D'accord. Si la question est posée en français, peut-être que c'est une demande en français. Donc, à moins que ça
in French,
soit nécessaire de revenir en anglais.
unless it's necessary to come back in English. You can speak in English. Okay, no problem. So I will say that
Que soit par
based on the report that was made by Seattle's Court or Syriac, it's almost the same thing in most of Francophone countries. We have issues relating to human rights. When we take the case of Cameroon, we have a downfall, a drop of 17 places. It's significant and shows that there is a trend to muzzle journalists, and it is everywhere on the continent. It's also a sign that it also shows how important is the theme of today. We don't have to ignore. We should not ignore this problem that we are facing in journalism. So it's the same trend in Cameroon, and we also saw that we have a self-censorship that is increasingly noticed. And when it comes to citizens, you can notice that when they have to express their opinion online, when you see that almost everybody is a journalist these days, we notice that most of people self-censor themselves because we notice that this environment is not conducive for freedom of expression, freedom of opinion. I think this trend is generalized, and I think there is no country in Central Africa that is different from the trend.
Merci.
Thank you.
Docteur.
Thank you, Dr. Charlie Nganu. So we are going to Dr. Syriac Pare. Could you tell us briefly? I'm talking about journalists. I want to say that what is the contribution of digital technology to media this recent year when it comes to journalists?
Je pense que comme
I
tous les
think,
pays, Internet a révolutionné le secteur.
like in all countries, Internet has
digital a révolutionné le secteur des médias.
revolutionized
Je vous disais tout à l'heure
the media
qu'il y a
sector. I was saying that we have 145 online media that are officially registered in
de la vitalité
Burkina. This
de ce
shows
secteur,
that
mais
this
aussi
sector
du
is
fait
vibrant.
que de plus en plus,
It also shows that
le numérique s'impose comme
the digital is
le
taking
refuge de
space
beaucoup de médias
and
qui n'arrivent plus à
is
apparaître
turning into
sous forme imprimée,
a safe
ou
place
qui
for
n'arrivent pas à trouver
people
leur
who cannot
voix
go
en
to
tant que
print
radio
press
ou télévision.
or radio
Donc c'est
or
déjà
TV.
pour dire
So this is to
le
say
souffle
that
nouveau
there is
que
a
le
new
numérique
trend
apporte,
that
mais cela n'est pas sans
digital is
difficulté
bringing
parce
to
que
journalism.
il faut un bon
But there are also
modèle
difficulties and challenges
éditorial, il faut un bon business plan
because we
pour
need a good
réussir
editorial
dans le
model
numérique,
and a good
ce qui n'est pas
business
encore le
model
cas pour beaucoup de personnes.
to succeed.
Le numérique a
And this is
aussi
not the case for
pour
many
autre
people.
désavantage de nous rendre
The digital also
dépendants
have
des
as
connexions. Je vous ai dit tout à l'heure que Internet mobile a été coupé 2 fois dans
and then
notre
with
pays.
digital we noticed that we are dependent
Beaucoup
on
de
internet.
désagréments en termes
And I
d'accès
told you
à
that internet was
l'information,
shut down in our
bien
country,
entendu
which
de
shows that
diffusion
we were cut off from
à
information.
l'information. Il y a aussi
We
le
also
problème
have
de la formation.
as issue
Le numérique nécessite
the training issue.
un
When
recyclage
it comes
des
to digital, we
professionnels qui
need to
travaillent dans ce
train the
secteur.
professionals that work
Malheureusement,
in
ce
this
n'est pas
sector.
encore le cas. Ce que l'on
Unfortunately,
constate,
we see
il y a
that
beaucoup
many are
d'amateurisme.
not trained, and
Moi,
then
je
there
suis
are a lot of
président de
amateurs.
l'association des médias en ligne du Burkina.
I'm a
On
president of
regarde
online media in
ce
Burkina,
qui se
online
fait
media
dans le
association in Burkina Faso,
secteur,
and when I look at what's happening in the
le
sector,
numérique accueille beaucoup
we
d'initiatives
can
de
see that
nouveaux,
there are a lot of
de nouvelles
initiatives,
entreprises
a
de
lot
presse
of
en ligne. Mais il y a beaucoup
new
de déchets parce
media
que les
outlet
professionnels
online, but then we can see
n'utilisent pas
that it's
encore
not as
les
good
normes,
as we
les
expect
enjeux
because there are ethical
éditoriaux,
norms that are not
économiques
respected
du
when it comes
numérique.
also
Bien
to editorial norms
entendu,
that are not respected.
il y a aussi le fait que le numérique permet à n'importe quel citoyen de
We also
produire,
have
de
the fact
diffuser de
that
l'information, ce qui a pour conséquence
the
la
digital
pollution de l'écosystème
also allows
informationnel,
anybody to
parce
just
qu'on est
post any
submergé
information,
par
which is a
des
sort of pollution
contenus
because
dont on
we
ignore la
have
source,
a
qui
lot of
ont une
content that
grande
we ignore the
viralité,
source
qui ne facilitent pas le travail des
that usually
journalistes,
go viral
qui
and which make
généralement
the
se servent
work
des citoyens comme
difficult
source.
for
Donc, il y
journalists.
a cette autre pollution numérique
So this is a sort of
que l'OMS a appelée
digital
infodémie,
pollution
par exemple, au
that
temps de la pandémie du Covid,
the World
qui
Health
est notre
Organization
problème.
called infodemics
Le fait que les
during the
citoyens
COVID
ordinaires
outbreak.
envahissent le champ de la production et de la diffusion de
Because
l'information,
when
ça
a citizen
complique un peu le
is
travail
taking
des journalistes qui doivent redoubler de
place in
vigilance
the
pour
online media
conserver leur
space,
professionnalisme, leur
this makes the work
crédibilité,
difficult for the
faire la
journalists
différence auprès
to
du lectorat.
show
Donc
how
aussi bien
professional
au
they are.
plan éditorial, au plan
So
économique, il y
when
a
it
des
comes
atouts
to economic
qu'apporte le numérique, mais
editorial
il y a aussi des difficultés.
level
Et c'est aux
levels,
professionnels des
we
médias
have
de mesurer
advantages, but we also have
l'importance de ces
difficulties.
défis,
But it's
de
up
se
to the
former pour
journalists
les affronter
to
et aussi
analyze them
de
and train
faire
themselves so
un
that they can
plaidoyer
pick up these
auprès
challenges.
des autorités pour disposer parfois d'un cadre législatif qui permette réellement
So we also need to work
un
with the
épanouissement
authorities
de la liberté
to
d'expression. Je vous ai
put
parlé
up
au
a
tout
legal
début de la modification du code pénal du Burkina
so that we can
Faso en 2000.
Work freely online. I talked about
qui punit très sévèrement les infractions en lien avec
I talked about a law that was passed in Burkina Faso and that is quite repressive towards terrorist acts. I think we could come back to this later.
Ce qui aujourd'hui constitue l'essentiel de l'actualité burkinabé.
Doctor, can you hear me? We could come back to this discussion later. Can you hear me? Hello.
Allô?
Allô, bonjour.
Oui, bonjour, Mariam Koné. Est-ce que vous pouvez assez rapidement nous faire l'état des lieux de la presse au Mali, qui, je rappelle, a perdu 12 places quand même dans le dernier, dans le dernier rapport de Reporters sans frontières, et nous dire quel a été l'apport du digital pour la presse dans ce pays. Merci.
Oui, bonjour tout le monde. Je suis très contente d'être là. Malheureusement, nous avons perdu 12 places. Vu le contexte actuel même de notre pays, avec nous regrettons.
When it comes to our country's context, you know that everything is not easy. And then with the loss of one of our journalists,
fait l'objet quand même des chroniques écrites au Mali. Donc la situation au Mali n'est pas aussi réduisante malheureusement pour nous, parce qu'avec les nouvelles autorités qui viennent et avec cette mentalité dans la tête de tous les Maliens qui veulent cette souveraineté malienne, donc qui veut cette liberté de la colonisation. Les analyses sont vraiment, ne sont pas les bienvenues au Mali. On se traite tout de suite d'être du côté de la France, d'être un journal du côté de la France, ou bien d'être un face de Djougou en d'autres termes, un mauvais patriote. Parce que bien qu'on soit journaliste, on est malien, donc on est des patriotes. Donc c'est ça qui mine beaucoup aujourd'hui la liberté d'expression au Mali. Bon, nous sommes quand même confrontés à beaucoup de défis qui est aussi...
Alors Mariam, avant d'arriver aux difficultés, est-ce que vous pouvez nous dire assez rapidement l'apport donc du numérique et du digital, je veux dire, pour la presse au Mali?
Le numérique digital, oui, malheureusement, tout le monde est journaliste maintenant. L'apport, pour moi quand même, personnellement, c'est pas un bon apport pour moi. Parce que l'avantage quand même que les petits, le peu de professionnels qui sont dans le domaine nous apportent quand même l'information en temps réel. Mais malheureusement, les blogueurs et d'autres personnes se sont invités dans le système. Ce qui est vraiment, il faut pour moi quand même, il faut bien analyser la chose et nettoyer le numérique au Mali. Parce que ce n'est pas compris avec des vidéomans qui sont au Mali, avec d'autres blogueurs qui ne comprennent rien, nos journalistes digitales. C'est ça qui, si on me dit de brosser l'environnement du digital au Mali, moi je dirais que c'est un peu négatif. Bien qu'il y ait des professionnels qui sont là, qui disent pour ça, mais vu tout cette abondance de non-professionnels qui s'invitent dans le système, bon, c'est pas reluisant en tant qu'en professionnalisme pour moi quand même. Ça, c'est mon analyse personnelle.
Merci beaucoup, Mariam. Nous allons donner la parole à Monsieur Charlie, Dr. Charlie Nganou au Cameroon. Now, let us give the floor to Charlie Nganou from joining us from Cameroon. Doctor, Mariam just said digital technology has not been that muchful to journalists in Mali because it has opened the doors to non-professionals, bloggers, which has also brought in so many bad things like fake news. So what's your take on this? How helpful has digital technology been to media work and to you as well in Cameroon?
Thank you, moderator. I think she's right. The democratization of technology has created a kind of plain floor for anyone to get into technology and to start, publishing. And this stems on the fact that social media has given the opportunity for anyone, and at least at no cost, to publish and to do anything that you can do using an internet connection. And so it's just easy for any kind of citizen with any kind of motive, just, based on self-interest, to publish anything that can even harm anyone out there. It's like, you have a kind of mass destruction weapons.
Comme il y a une arme de destruction massive que tout le monde utilise.
And I see it everywhere.
Oui, ne faisons pas très attention à ce qui se passe autour de nous.
That Syria was talking about, that anyone is just waiting for, the opportunity to publish.
Tout le monde attend juste l'occasion de partager quelque chose qui peut apporter de l'audience et des vues.
To let people see things and to let them share and to let them comment. So
nous partageons des choses afin que les gens puissent voir et qu'ils puissent juste commenter.
Where they can also earn money. Because if you look at it, it is not like, previous traditional journalism.
Nous pouvons dire qu'il y a un souci de intérêt personnel qui fait que les personnes sont orientées vers l'intérêt de générer de l'argent.
Human being. And then the more you have views, the more
vous avez de l'audience et plus vos publications sont commentées et plus
And previously, when we started with internet, 30 years back,
et vous savez, lorsque nous avons commencé l'ancêtre de l'internet il y a 30 ans,
you needed then to build a blog. And that's when we saw WordPress, being built to help journalists. If we recall, seasoned journalists here probably.
Vous savez, lorsque nous avons créé les réseaux sociaux, c'était pas forcément pour bien aider les journalistes.
Were actually built to help journalists build blogs, to convert from traditional printing journalism to, this new digital journalism that was being nascent. But and then it requires, please, if you can mute Mariam. And
si vous pouvez vous couper le micro de Mariam. Alors, nous devons payer pour pouvoir être connus sur un site. Pour ceux qui n'étaient pas dans le milieu professionnel, pour pouvoir bénéficier du secteur, il fallait, en tant que journaliste, avoir une certaine crédibilité. Et lorsque vous postez, vous serez lu par des gens qui font le même, qui exercent le même métier que vous. Et c'était beaucoup plus facile pour tout le monde de garder une stabilité de journaliste. Une stabilité en journalisme.
When she was telling this, my question in my mind was, how are we going?
Ensuite, elle a dit qu'il fallait qu'on nettoie l'environnement. Et quand elle a dit dans ma tête, je me suis dit comment allons-nous nous y prendre afin de nettoyer le secteur.
Without any screening, without any testing, without any proof, and then paying them for that. And so I was asking this in my head, and I don't have a solution for now.
Et dans ma tête, je me disais que comment allons-nous faire en même temps?
address later. Now let's go to.
Alors maintenant, nous allons nous diriger vers Maïmouna du Niger qui, pour moi, je pense, a quelque chose à dire sur l'impact que le journalisme numérique a dans le monde.
L'apport du digital dans l'exercice de la profession de journalisme dans votre pays au Niger. Merci. Maïmouna, vous nous entendez? Bonjour. Allô, Maïmouna, bonjour. So let's send.
Bonjour.
Bon,
Du Niger. Donc, je voudrais, le reporter sans frontières, ce qui est du Niger.
Can you hear us? Maïmouna, vous nous entendez? I think we've lost. OK.
Pour ce qui est du Niger, a perdu 2 points par ma place en 2021 sur la totale. De 180 pays en matière de liberté de la presse au Niger, c'est qu'il y a en fait, les conditions sont pas réunies pour ceux que pour faire leur métier convenablement. Les entreprises de presse, il y a également le harcèlement de certains journalistes. Parce qu'en 2021, d'une condamnation avec sursis. Donc, tout ceci de l'État de ses partenaires qui sont les médias apporté.
Je pense que Maïmouna a un problème avec son micro. Nous allons prendre un autre intervenant. Allons rapidement du côté du Burkina Faso avec
nous a mis dans cette position. Dieu merci, nous avons le président de la République qui a pu un peu décision sur la loi sur la cybercriminalité. Le métier de journaliste, la loi cybercriminalité a été revue par le président de la République. Permettant ainsi aux journalistes de ne plus être inquiétés façon de mettre la conformité à des livres de presse.
Merci Maïmouna. Nous allons à présent aller du côté du Burkina Faso. Merci pour votre intervention sur la situation au Niger. Merci beaucoup Maïmouna. À présent, docteur,
voilà, en fait, et maintenant sur les réseaux sociaux, parce qu'il faut qu'on parle de zones d'acquis. Qu'est-ce que le Niger, ou les journalistes.
Merci beaucoup, Maïmouna. Now, can you
on peut avoir par rapport à ces nouveaux outils, ou pas?
Merci beaucoup, Maïmouna. On vous a bien entendu. Vous m'entendez? Allô, Maïmouna, vous m'entendez? Allô?
En fait, aujourd'hui, maintenant, qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire? Il faut encadrer ces journalistes. Il faut connaître qui est journaliste.
Siata Johnson, are you there, please?
Yeah, I am here. I would agree with Mariam Damo. Everything Mariam said that is happening in Mariam spoke from Cameroon, right? From Cameroon, Mariam. So everything Mariam said.
She is in Mali.
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 Okay, Mali. Hi, Mariam. So I wouldn't agree with Mariam Damo because everything Mariam said is exactly what is happening in Liberia. Currently, we have the slow erosion of the free and independent media. The issue of the internet is It's positive and it's negative from our end. A lot of us have managed to be able to learn new technologies from the internet. We build our capacity to research and everything. But equally so, as Charlie said from Cameroon, people with different motives are using the internet. Especially
beaucoup de gens utilisent Internet à des fins personnelles.
So you have different social media platforms.
Nous avons différentes plateformes de réseaux sociaux en ligne et
social media kind of media that is springing
beaucoup
up.
de médias en ligne aussi.
The space, making journalism very
Le
difficult.
journalisme très difficile pour nous en tant que journalistes professionnels. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, n'importe qui possède un téléphone
is being considered a journalist.
est considéré comme un journaliste.
The public, they will see that person as a journalist. Anybody that you know that goes behind a microphone is being considered a journalist. So now
Tout le monde qui tient un micro est considéré comme journaliste. Et aujourd'hui, nous qui sommes considérés comme journalistes indépendants,
has been placed on the different social media and quote-unquote online media platforms that claim you to be journalists. So it kind of shrinking the space. And when Mariam said, how can
nous qui
we
sommes journalistes professionnels, nous sommes saturés par tout ce nombre de journalistes sur les réseaux sociaux qui prétendent l'être.
As free and independent journalists, how do we get in that space? Because the very space is being used to kind of monitor and have surveillance on us.
Hello, Scott, I actually agree with you on that, cleansing the state. But before tackling this issue, and I think I will ask you this question. Have you personally ever experienced digital surveillance?
Mademoiselle, avez-vous déjà eu l'expérience de...
Digital surveillance I have experienced because as I said in my introduction, I'm also an activist.
Comme je dis dans mon introduction, je suis également une militante. Je demande cela parce que vous avez dit que vous avez été témoin de moins en moins d'attaques contre les journalistes. Comme je disais, j'ai de l'expérience, mais à chaque fois que vous faites des commentaires, ils viennent dans votre boîte privée. Ils suivent votre travail et à un certain moment, je ne sais pas quel était le problème, mais tout ce qui me concernait sur Internet. Donc, mon téléphone et tous mes appareils ont été affectés. J'ai appris que j'ai été piratée. J'étais hors ligne pendant un moment. Donc, apparemment, ça n'avait rien à voir avec la communication. Je n'avais pas accès à la communication, je ne pouvais pas envoyer d'email, je n'avais pas accès à Internet, je n'avais accès à rien. Donc, je pense que j'ai été victime de surveillance digitale, de surveillance numérique, et pas seulement moi, mais également d'autres journalistes. Et on sait également que on est contrôlé, on est surveillé. Et à chaque fois qu'on pose quelque chose, on nous dit vous ne devez pas être en train de faire ci, vous ne devez pas être en train de faire ça.
Est-ce que vous avez déjà fait l'objet de surveillance digitale, on va le dire ainsi, ou un collègue, là c'est au journaliste à l'homme de médias que je parle, pas à l'enseignant. Est-ce que vous avez déjà, je veux dire, expérimenté cette chose-là, subi ça au moins, une sorte de surveillance en ligne ou vos collègues ou dans votre média, voici, est-ce que vous pouvez partager avec nous ces expériences-là?
Ah, je ne sais pas si c'est à moi que la question s'adresse, mais je n'ai pas entendu le début.
Oui, c'est à Dr. Paré. Alors, Scott Johnson nous partage son expérience, donc on vient à vous maintenant si vous avez une expérience semblable.
Non, personnellement, non. La difficulté, c'est que je pense personnellement que dans nos pays, les journalistes les journalistes que nous sommes, les conditions dans lesquelles ils exercent ne leur permettent pas toujours de réaliser s'ils sont sous surveillance ou pas. Parce qu'il faut des outils sophistiqués. Et comme on le sait, il y a même des chefs d'État qui sont espionnés à leur insu. Pour les journalistes, je pense que ça doit être encore plus facile. Je sais que il y a environ 4 mois, nous avons rencontré le responsable du service des renseignements du Burkina lors d'un atelier d'échange. Et la question que les journalistes ont posée, c'était de savoir s'il arrivait que des journalistes burkinabés soient sous surveillance. Bien entendu, il a dit non. Bon, je pense que personne n'a cru à sa réponse, mais malheureusement, nous n'avons pas de preuves que nous sommes surveillés. Personnellement, je n'ai pas d'expérience en tant que tel. Nous n'avons pas les moyens de vérifier, en fait. Il faut dire aussi qu'il y a un environnement très fragile dans lequel nous exerçons, en ce sens qu'il y a très peu de rédactions qui ont les moyens de s'offrir les services d'un technicien, d'un informaticien qualifié pour sécuriser leur environnement de travail, pour sécuriser leurs outils de travail. Il y a des précautions minimales comme l'installation d'antivirus à jour, l'utilisation de bons mots de passe qu'il faut régulièrement changer. Même ça, il y a beaucoup de journalistes qui ne le font pas. Je ne dis pas qu'on ne prend pas conscience de la nécessité de s'entourer d'un environnement sécurisé, mais il y a parce que on se dit, bon, peut-être qu'on n'y peut rien ou on n'a pas encore été victime en tant que tel, et puis on ne prend pas vraiment conscience et on ne se donne pas les moyens de le faire. Au Burkina, je ne connais pas beaucoup de journalistes qui peuvent affirmer avoir été victimes de cybersurveillance. Les gens ont l'impression, quand on utilise son téléphone, on a parfois l'impression d'être sur écoute, d'avoir des interférences, mais techniquement, on ne peut pas le prouver. C'est un peu ça la difficulté aussi.
Merci beaucoup, Cyriac. Je pense qu'il y a quelqu'un qui serait très ravi de nous donner son avis sur cette question. I think I will be very happy to hear Dr. Ngano's statement.
I think we will be very happy to hear. He's an expert of.
Or have you been hacked, or do you have grown to suspect this? So, what is your statement on that? Will actually
Vous avez des motifs de suspecter que vous êtes victime de piratage? Merci. Oui, effectivement.
Dr. Paris said that most of the time journalists themselves are
Dr. Paris a dit que la plupart du temps, les journalistes eux-mêmes ne sont pas au courant qu'ils sont sous surveillance à cause du manque de connaissances. Ils n'ont pas assez de moyens pour engager un professionnel de l'informatique pour se protéger, mais vous parlez en tant qu'expert en informatique. Est-ce que vous avez été personnellement piraté ou est-ce que des collègues à vous ont été victimes de cette menace? Effectivement, ici nous avons ici nous avons le genre de... Ici, tout le monde est un technicien. Nous sommes imbibés dans la technologie. J'ai travaillé dans la technologie pendant 3 ans. Donc, j'ai vu l'arrivée d'Internet et tout ce dont Cyriac vient de parler. Il a tout à fait raison. Ce n'est pas facile d'être au courant, de savoir ce qui se passe, plus particulièrement quand dans ce monde digital, numérique. Contrairement à ce que nous avions auparavant, où on se parlait juste à travers les ordinateurs, nous parlons de la computarisation, nous ne parlions pas de la digitalisation, mais numérisation. Pour que quelqu'un puisse avoir accès à notre ordinateur, nous étions au courant lorsque quelqu'un essayait de d'avoir accès. C'était possible de savoir quand quelqu'un essaie de pirater votre mot de passe. Et ensuite, nous sommes passés aux compagnies Internet où votre ordinateur de travail serait connecté à des compagnies Internet. La plupart de ces réseaux étaient visibles. Vous verriez des câbles entrer dans votre bureau. Et la plupart de ces intrusions que vous aviez dans votre ordinateur étaient faciles à remarquer. Même à ce temps, c'était facile pour ceux qui utilisaient les ordinateurs de ne pas savoir que quelqu'un s'était introduit dans son ordinateur et avait récupéré un fichier ou avait installé un logiciel ou encore des virus. Ça, c'était les virus que nous connaissions à l'époque. Mais aujourd'hui, alors que nous sommes à l'ère numérique, le problème est plus par rapport aux technologies qui sont en arrière-plan. Elles ne sont même pas lancées par vous. Ce qui veut dire que la plupart du temps, quand vous installez quelque chose sur votre ordinateur, vous verrez que vous allez aller sur Google Play, vous allez sélectionner un logiciel ou une application. Aujourd'hui, nous disons une app. Vous cliquez dessus et ça vous demande de consentir. Et vous dites oui. Vous cliquez sur oui. Donc, en voyant cette demande de consentement, vous allez cliquer sur oui parce que vous avez besoin de cette application. Mais en cliquant sur oui, vous donnez la permission. Vous donnez la permission au propriétaire de l'application d'aller dans votre appareil mobile sans votre consentement. De nos jours, contrairement à ce que nous avions, à l'époque, nous allions au travail, nous éteignions nos appareils avant de rentrer à la maison. Mais aujourd'hui, nous avons plus que des ordinateurs. Quand vous regardez vous faites attention à la mémoire, au processeur. Et quand vous regardez le nombre d'applications que nous avons dans nos portables, des applications qui sont très utiles. Maintenant, nous sommes sur Zoom, nous sommes sur WhatsApp ou sur Facebook et toutes ces applications travaillent en arrière-plan alors que nous sommes en train de parler. Nous ne sommes pas les fondeurs de ces applications. Donc, tout ce que nous faisons sur nos smartphones n'est pas sous notre contrôle. C'est tout à fait compréhensible que Syriac dise que nous ne savons pas. Et c'est effectivement vrai. Et ce n'est pas seulement vrai pour les journalistes, c'est vrai pour tout le monde. Même pour ceux qui sont des savants de l'Internet, la technologie. Si vous vous rappelez, nous avons dit que la plupart des plateformes collectent les données des utilisateurs sans leur connaissance. Donc, il y a un... Et vous parlez de Pegasus, le logiciel espion qui a été installé dans les portables des présidents sans la connaissance des services secrets dans la plupart des pays. Il se trouverait même que le président Macron ait ce logiciel dans son portable sans que personne ne sache. Donc, si même eux sont piratés, c'est normal que même les journalistes ne soient pas au courant parce que ces technologies sont très faciles à utiliser, sont très faciles à cacher. Moi, je ne pense pas être harcelée par... Bien que je sois un militant, je suis dans plusieurs groupes WhatsApp dans lesquels il y a des espions numériques, mais que la plupart de nos gouvernements ont installé. Mais j'ai découvert que quelqu'un a installé dans mon ordinateur un logiciel. Oh. Et ça m'est arrivé. Quelqu'un a installé un logiciel qui génère des bitcoins à chaque fois que j'utilise mon ordinateur. Ce que nous avons besoin de faire, maintenant que nous avons ce genre de conversation, nous avons besoin de savoir que chaque jour, nous devons augmenter notre connaissance des risques parce que nous ne pouvons pas faire face aux risques. Mais plus nous avons cette connaissance et plus nous réduisons notre exposition à ces risques. Parce que nous ne pouvons pas contre-attaquer ces risques, mais nous pouvons augmenter notre connaissance de ces risques et comment nous protéger de ces risques. Et nous pouvons savoir comment faire en sorte de ne pas
issue later to discuss how can journalists detect they are being digitally monitored and the tools they can resort to in order to
comment
protect.
est-ce que les journalistes peuvent découvrir. Vous l'avez dit, Pegasus. On est. Nous allons maintenant au Mali pour parler à Mariam Kone.
Bonjour Mariam. Allô. Mariam, bonjour. Passons donc la parole à notre amie et consoeur du Niger, Maïmouna. Bonjour Maïmouna, vous êtes là?
Allô, oui.
Alors Maïmouna, est-ce que vous pouvez partager avec nous, est-ce que quelqu'un dans votre média ou vous-même avez déjà été victime de surveillance, je vais dire, numérique de la part de gouvernants? Est-ce que vous avez une expérience à nous partager à propos?
Allô?
Oui,
Allô,
vous nous entendez?
coucou.
Oui, Mariam, bonjour.
Oui, bonjour.
Alors, on le
Vous
sait, le
m'entendez
Mali,
maintenant?
oui, on vous entend parfaitement.
Mhm.
On le sait, au Mali, en ce moment, la loi sur la cybercriminalité, qui est potentiellement problématique pour les droits numériques, notamment des
Oui,
journalistes, et qui
oui.
ouvre la porte à de la surveillance numérique de la part des gouvernants, notamment en rapport avec les questions de sécurité publique et de défense du territoire du Mali, qui évoquent généralement les gouvernants. Et cette loi-là offre, je vais dire, l'opportunité aux gouvernants de surveiller en temps réel et d'intercepter aussi les communications de tous les citoyens, y compris du Mali. Est-ce que vous pouvez, à propos, nous dire si déjà, vous personnellement, ou l'un de vos collègues, ou votre média, quelqu'un auprès de vous que vous connaissez, ou vous-même, avez déjà été mis sur écoute ou victime de cette sorte de surveillance numérique? Merci.
Non, on ne peut pas dire personnellement que nous avons été victimes de cette surveillance, mais ce qui est une évidence quand même, pour l'état actuel du Mali, tous les journalistes doivent se mettre
Currently in Mali, we have to say that because of the context, every journalist has to tell himself or herself that he's under surveillance. So there are certain type of information that can cause you to be can cause you trouble with the government. And we would say that we are closely monitored, even though we cannot say that we are under digital surveillance. So we are not really free to share everything without being called to order. But we can say that we cannot really say that we have any specific case of being under digital surveillance.
Ou bien il écrit ça dans son journal aussi au vu de tout le monde que le journaliste sera appréhendé. Mais nous ne sommes pas quand même.
Then we would say that we are not really comfortable to share information freely in the country.
Même si on en a
because we tell ourselves that we might be called to order anytime. Hello. we've heard you very well. Thank you, Mariam, for sharing your experience with us. This is a question that's a little bit more technical. And for that, we are going to Dr. Ngunu from Cameroon, who is a digital savvy. Can you mute your microphone?
Ella Coupe.
Okay.
She has muted herself.
We are coming to you once again since this issue is a very technical one. So I'm going to ask this. How can journalists detect that they are being digitally monitored or their working tools are being hacked? Do you have any tips to share on that? Because it is
yes, I would say. Yes, I would say maybe the first thing that we can do is that we need to make sure, because as you just said, it's those issues are very technically sophisticated, and then for kind of to be surveilled in the as we talk of mass surveillance or maybe journalist surveillance, the institution surveilling you should do things so that you don't know, because once you know, surveillance is already stopped. And so it means we are actually fighting against another type of intelligence. And this is highly technical, and as it is highly technical, it means also that it requests very great amount of resources. When you look at time, when you look at money, when you look at technical expertise, and even if you have to bring someone to help you check, you will know that even just to use our technologies, the quantity of technologies that we have, even for our work, as I see journalists, because we work mostly with journalists, we train them, we help them how to sort out data and how to data mine. We see clearly that most journalists don't really have, all the skills, technical skills, even to ease their work, even to facilitate the way they collect, the way they use, or maybe the way they produce their articles, either on blogs, on websites, and even in print. And so if you move journalists to start tracking if they are being surveilled or not, I think that will be very much for them. I see it here in Cameroon. It's not easy because we've done few training sessions here about digital security, really based on digital security. And Dr. Syriac was telling us previously that even just to fight against or maybe to protect themselves from viruses, that we have known for decades now, is not easy because it requires you to be very much sensitive and then to be aware of the kind of harms that viruses can bring just only to your data. And my view on this will be that first, that we retrain journalists to be security sensitive. That's my first thing. To give them, very plain, very simple skills. That won't, discourage them. Because actually, when you see the technicality of something, if you share that with people who are not close to the sector or maybe to the domain, that will discourage them, and they will just tell as usual that let it be. So my view is let train journalists. Sorry?
Are you suggesting that trainers should turn this highly technical language into a more accessible one for journalists, for them to help them to join and understand what is going on?
Exactly. That's the first thing for me. For the experience that we've got here in Cameroon, we started very slowly, helping them going from physical security to turn them to digital security skills, helping them and telling them also that there are a few tools that we can pre-install in their smartphone or their computer. Instead of fighting You know, instead of fighting, you know, the kind of tech surveillance that might come, we just use tools that we have identified, you know, open source tool that could help them to get the kind of, because Mariam just said that they are not at ease, they are not at peace. And this is true. And I think that's where the most serious harms happen. It is not actually physical. You don't see that journalists are physically, you know, because this is more and then to fight back. And no country loves that. When you put on the space that he's harassing journalists, they don't love it. And the issue is that it's psychologically, it is mentally that journalists are very much restrained and constrained. Once they know that they are at risk, at this time, they start, you know, they even block themselves in telling us what they need to tell us. So I think we need to create this safe space for them, telling them, or maybe helping them. That's what I think. I think that there should be a kind of mix between journalists and tech organizations like us, so that we can really regularly, not just once annually, as we usually do, that regularly. Yes, that's what we do. We do it annually. And so monthly, even just monthly, we can help journalists, teaming up with journalists so that they do, what they are expert in. And tech people like us and some other organization, we bring our tech skills, our tech expertise, so that they get kind of a secure space, so that they know that they have people that might help them. And today with this Zoom, I'm in Cameroon, you are in Ghana, someone else is in Mali. So we can do this, and we can even install things even at distance. This is easy to do today, so that we create a kind of, we are their back office team, you know, so that they can do what they have to do, knowing that behind we are protecting, we are helping them to get secure.
Doctor, please, are you also advising newsroom to have tech-savvy people, let's say, with them, working with them? I mean, in the staff.
That's actually the idea. But the truth is, Dr. Syriac and even Seattle Scott just said it. Most newsrooms has no financial, I would say it, financial resources. And that's what put every one of those journalists and newsrooms at risk. Because if you had money, if you had enough money, if you had the support of the state, because, you know, the first support that journalists and newsrooms, if we have countries that would like to clear the space, is actually the support of taxes, of public taxes. You know, they need it. We don't need to think of journalists as people who are against our state or our government. Normally, government should organize things so that we can give means to newsrooms, you know, and to journalists, so that they can do their work very freely and very legally, you know, without going against what exists. That's one. The second one is that they can also do kind of networking, something that I suggested to local governments in our country a few times back, that maybe they can have one tech, for those who have little means, they can have one tech expert for 2-3 newsrooms that will be serving them, and they will team up, you know, so that they don't spend their money, because they, you know, at times you will pay someone for a risk that you have just overstated, you know, and then having one expert that you might pay is another key. And the third possibility is the kind of, you know, we have some few philanthropic organizations like Afro Leadership, Affectivists, and so on, that are ready to, you know, to speak for journalists, to speak for newsroom, because they understand clearly that journalists are very, very critical for our democracy. And this is also things that we can do, you know, teaming up with networks of journalists, helping them and bringing this kind of skills.
Thank you very much, Ngannou from Cameroon. Now let's go to Paris in Burkina Faso. Dr. Paris, bonjour encore.
Good morning again, Dr. Paris. Hello.
Bonjour.
Good morning.
Oui, bonjour, modérateur.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. So this is what we got from the experience sharing of our colleague from Cameroon. I'm coming back to you now, very briefly.
Oui.
What's the experience in Burkina Faso on the same question?
Oui, malheureusement, j'ai compris la moitié de ce qu'il disait
I
parce que la
only got
connexion
half
s'est
of it
coupée plusieurs
because
fois.
my network was not
Je
really
ne sais
good.
pas si c'est chez moi seulement, mais
I don't know if it's only
il y a un
with
gros
me.
souci avec la
I
qualité
think we have a lot
du
of
son.
issue when it comes to sound
Ça fait que
quality.
j'ai pratiquement pas saisi ce qu'il a dit.
So I got, and I didn't get much of what he said. So after you
Oui.
spoke, he was saying that most of journalists don't even know that they are under
Oui.
surveillance. And some of them even don't have what it takes
D'accord.
to protect themselves.
Oui.
So he was suggesting and recommending that journalists and media professional
Oui.
find a tech savvy that will help them come up with solutions.
Oui, c'est une bonne idée,
I think it's a very
mais
good idea.
cela, bien entendu, est une question
But of course,
de moyens financiers. Quand on connaît un peu quelle est la
related to
réalité
financial
financière de
means
nos entreprises
when
presse,
we know
ce n'est pas évident.
what is the
En ce qui
financials of
concerne
our press
l'utilisation,
outlet.
l'emploi d'un informaticien dans les rédactions, par exemple,
So when it
c'est
comes
pas
to
que les gens n'en ont pas
the use
besoin,
of a
mais
tech
ils n'en ont pas les
savvy
moyens.
in
Malheureusement,
media outlet, it's not that
vous avez
people
des
don't
entreprises
need
presse
it.
qui se
It's
réduisent
rather because they don't
parfois
have the
à
means.
2 employés permanents, tout au plus
You
3.
consider some
Ça veut dire que c'est
media
vraiment
outlets
l'essentiel
only
des
resort to
journalistes juste pour
2
produire de l'information.
permanent
C'est
employees.
vrai qu'ils peuvent faire appel à des
It's true that
contractuels pour
they can find
il
contractual
s'agit des questions de
individual
sécurité
consultant
et
to
autres,
work with.
mais il faut l'envisager. Ce que nous faisons déjà au
When it
Burkina,
comes to
c'est des formations préventives. Nous avons des formations dans le cadre des formations organisées par la Maison de la Presse Norbert Zongo,
So
avec
we have
certains autres
trainings that
partenaires.
the Center
Nous
of Press
parlons de
Nobel
ces
Zongo also
questions,
give, and we
on apprend
also
aux journalistes
talk about these issues.
comment créer un
We
mot de
teach
passe costaud,
journalists how
pourquoi il faut le
to
changer
create
régulièrement,
strong passwords and
comment
why there is need to change these
faire attention
passwords
à mettre à jour
frequently,
régulièrement ces logiciels,
and
à faire
also
une mise
why
à
is
jour
it
de son
necessary
système
to
d'exploitation, à ne pas cliquer
update
sur n'importe quel
your
lien, à faire attention
your
aux
operating
relations qu'on
system
peut
and
avoir sur
your
les
softwares. And why is there need not to click on any network, any link anyhow on the online?
Mettre des pièges. Il y a un certain nombre d'informations, mais bien entendu, vu l'enjeu de la question, de cela. Maintenant, on peut voir un professionnel aguerri. Il en existe. Vous verrez que nous faisons régulièrement des entretiens avec des professionnels de la cybersécurité. Des fois, nous faisons appel à une brigade de cybersécurité qui a été mise en place par la police nationale. Ici, par exemple, ce sera rien qu'avant-hier, je crois, ou hier, il y a quelqu'un qui a été arrêté. Vous verrez qu'on en fait cas sur le Donc, c'est un enjeu dont nous sommes conscients. Non seulement de l'importance, mais aussi des mesures qu'il faut mettre en œuvre. Mais malheureusement, les moyens font que, comme on dit, les gens veulent parer au plus pressé à ce qui est prioritaire à leur avis. C'est déjà de pouvoir produire l'information, d'avoir un minimum de ressources humaines, 2-3 employés qu'il faut payer régulièrement. En soin, mais ça sera, j'allais dire, étape par étape, tout en étant conscient de l'enjeu de la question.
Merci beaucoup, Dr. Paré.
Thank you, Dr. Paré. Thank you for your contribution. We are going to Liberia with our colleague, Theata Scott Johnson.
Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Have you ever teamed up with some tech savvy, some cybersecurity experts in a project like prevention or digital harassment or protection or the safety of your newsroom? Have you ever do something like that?
No, I've never had the opportunity to do so. I have just managed to participate in one training, and that training was organized by Media Foundation. So I've not had the opportunity to team up with any tech organization, and which will be good because we need it as journalists, as Charlie from Cameroon said, and we are all at risk, and we don't even know we are at risk because we don't have the capacity, the knowledge to even detect that we are at risk, and we don't have any idea that we've been monitored because the software and apps that are being used is not, to our fingertips like that. So it is good that we as journalists participate in this capacity building exercises, even though it's resource intensive, but it's good that we participate in these exercises. And as you said, team up, at least we can have the first-hand, the basic knowledge of what it is to be digitally harassed and how you can be able to detect that you are being harassed. It will help us, even though we cannot solve that because we don't have the capacity, the resources to be able to solve that.
Okay, thank you very much. Johnson, please, can you please share with us, with the audience, your experience about online harassment, women harassment, not you personally, but can you please share with us a picture of the state of things in Liberia? Because as you said in your statement, journalists are at risk, not only of, let's say, digital surveillance and spy from the government, but also from the audience, especially when they tackle sensitive issues. And we know that women are most of the time subject to online harassment. Anything on that?
Yes, so online harassment of female journalists is obvious, it's common in Liberia. It's not just journalists, and most especially female politicians have been harassed online. So as for the case of journalists, there are incidences that journalists will be the issue of their privacy, their relationship, their families will be brought in the public space. So there will be threat that if you don't change this story, or if you don't take this story down, or if you continue reporting on this story, we have a nude picture of you. We have a picture that you were in a romantic mood with somebody. Sometimes they even fake the pictures. They take another person's picture and put another person's face and put the journalist's face there, and it goes published. And because of that, as Charlie said, they kind of self-censor themselves. So they go in a quiet corner. We say in Liberia, they go into their closets and they don't come out. So there are incidents that we receive complaints of a lot of online harassment, a lot. They come in your inboxes. They go to your family. If you don't tell your wife to stop this, if you don't tell your brother, your sister to stop this, we're going to do this, we're going to put them in the public space. So they really go to your private life.
Thank you very much, Scott Johnson. Now we're going to Mali to speak with Mariam Kone. Alors, Mariam, bonjour.
So back to you, Mariam.
Mariam, tu es avec nous?
Her microphone is muted.
Allô? Si Mariam n'est pas là, nous passons la parole à Maïmouna. Mariam?
Oui, je suis là. Allô, oui,
Alors,
je suis là.
Alors, Mariam, bonjour.
Mariam, good morning again. Scott Johnson was sharing her experience about online harassment of female journalists online. And we know that female journalists are exposed to online harassment, but then mostly women journalists. Do you have anything to share about this issue online? Women are always subjected to harassment. But there is a body that protects women and female journalists.
Parce que généralement, parce que généralement, les femmes qui sont dans les numériques au Mali, les journaux au Mali sont
But then we
Mais
But we have to say that we are generally speaking, we are protected as women journalists in the country. I've not personally experienced any case of online harassment because I'm in the print media,
Internet aussi.
and we also have an online website.
Des très jeunes journalistes qui viennent de débuter ce travail-là et qui accourent vers le numérique, vers la presse.
But we also see a lot of young journalists who have just completed their training and then rush to online media and experience harassment. And as soon as they signal this thing, we take care of it. I want to also ask another question that pertains to judicial matters. You say that when women experience harassment, they let you know. On behalf, beyond this, your media outlet, do you have laws? Do you have a legal system that is strong enough to help journalists when it comes to harassment? Does that judicial system have the capacity to handle these issues?
Il est pillé par le gouvernement ou une agence gouvernementale ou par la police. Est-ce qu'il a cette possibilité-là, n'est-ce pas?
So what if this journalist is harassed by the government or the police? Does that journalist have the possibility to seize the justice, to have justice? Yes. The person that is experiencing harassment just have to file a complaint. And we could say that now the legal system in Mali has what it takes to handle these cases. And we have to salute this fact. Even if press freedom is not as bright as it is in Mali as it is in other countries, we have to acknowledge that we have something to handle these issues. We have the legal brigade and other bodies that take charge of these issues.
Merci beaucoup, Mariam.
Thank you, Mariam. Maybe our colleague from Niger, we have the Brigade of Investigation Judiciaire. You jump to Maimuna. Maimuna, are you here with us?
Hello.
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 Alors, une question rapidement à Dr. Paré.
We have a quick one to Dr. Paré because now that I have thrown. Don't you think that we have to include in trainings? Don't you think that we have to include in trainings, journalist training, online safety and digital safety? Because nowadays we see that journalists resort to the digital when it comes to their work. Don't you think we have to add this aspect to their training?
Dr. Paré, vous m'entendez?
Dr. Paré, can you hear me?
Allô, Dr. Paré, il est là?
Dr. Paré, are you with us?
Oui, how are you?
Hello.
Problème tout facile parce que je ne vous entends.
Hello, Moïse.
Hello.
Francis, welcome.
Dr. Francis.
Thank you very much. Sorry for joining late.
Okay. Actually, the question we're trying to address is this one.
Essayons de tacler ça également. Notre système judiciaire n'est pas suffisamment équipé pour faire face à ces problèmes. Nous n'avons pas les capacités d'enquêter les plaintes des victimes ou définir si l'auteur est le gouvernement ou une autre organisation? C'est la question que nous essayons à laquelle nous essayons de répondre actuellement. Laissez-moi commencer en disant que les questions de liberté d'expression, de liberté de presse et qui ont à voir avec la sécurité en ligne sont relativement nouvelles en termes de trouver des réparations judiciaires. Ce sont des problèmes qui vont demander un nouveau type d'éducation.
In black and white, they are equipped to deal with issues, civil rights issues, etc., etc. But most often than not, what comes to play from what people believe and what people say is that when there are matters involving government officials or the government itself, I mean, in this part of the world, in Africa, there will be some judicial systems that may want to do things that tend to favor the government. But by and large, I strongly believe that yes, the laws are there, the structures are there. It's about those who implement them having the desire, having the quest, and having the determination to implement the law as they should be and not in favor of anybody.
Thank you very much, Dr. Francis Sowa, for joining us, and thank you for sharing this statement with us, with the other panelists and the audience. Dr. Nganu, are you there? Hello?
I'm here.
Dr. Nganu, you there?
Yes.
Okay. So your take on this, our justice systems across Africa.
Yeah, I think the level of our democracy in most of our countries is such that you have kind of imbalance, of power between the executive and citizens. And journalists are, I think, kind of special category of citizens that are, more feared than mere citizens because of the power they have got to influence the opinion. And so when for what I see in my country here and in neighboring countries where we work, I see clearly that most of the time when a journalist will be facing the judicial system, he will be at risk of being condemned, even unjustly. And most of the things that you see journalists being, bring to court for are just subjective matter, because it's not easy to, it's not easy for the power that be, to really prove the, to really prove the harm of a given journalist. And then this will also prepare a kind of tribalization of journalism. With those who are even protected and who are even, used to, to attack opponents. And those who will be, as we say in French, mouton noir of journalism, and who will be facing the harshness of the judicial system. And so we need to, I think, we need to make sure we work together to improve our, we can't just say of the judicial system. That's difficult because the judicial system itself is a product of our democratic system. So we need, as journalists and tech, those who work in this digital, using digital, the advantage of digital technology, or maybe the opportunities of digital technology, to bring those people to understand clearly that we are on the same boat. And then we need to work together to improve the system so that everyone benefits from the system, everyone is protected by the system. Because for now, we see clearly that we don't have the space to, to change the judicial system. That is normally turned against journalists who are very critical the executive in our countries. So
Thank you
I will
very much.
share. Okay, sorry.
So let's give the floor to Dr. Francis Owa, who just joined us. He will be sharing with us some experience concerning digital surveillance in Sierra Leone, digital surveillance of journalism activity. Are you there, Dr. Sowa? Francis? Hello?
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. So can you please share with us some of the experiences of digital surveillance in your country?
All right. So basically, let's go back to the legal framework. Now, as recently as 2021, Sierra Leone got a cyber security and crimes act. So that was not a law that we had before. Now, according to the 2021 State of Internet Freedom Report, compiled by the East and Southern Africa CSPA surveillance, and it's clear that generally that issues around surveillance, they are increasing across Africa. And then one of our own activists in Sierra Leone is quoted, Thomas Conte, a digital rights advocate in Sierra Leone, and who argues primarily that the absence of comprehensive laws on data protection and privacy exposes Sierra Leoneans to surveillance. And basically, if you look at the data we have from reports that have been published, and let me quickly make reference to a report published recently. You see that we don't necessarily have cases of surveillance in recent times, but we have laws that point out or give powers to institutions to do so. So we have like the the Telecommunications Act has provisions pointing out to issues around surveillance, and there are concerns that people are subjected to surveillance. The 2020 U.S. Department of State reports on human rights practices noted that there were credible reports that government monitored private online communication without legal authority. So it's the concerns are growing. We have not had cases that have gone to the level of the courts, but then there are indications of some level of surveillance. Quoting, for example, the 2020 U.S. State Department country report. So there is also the bigger question that we don't have a data protection law in Sierra Leone. So we have a Cybersecurity and Crimes Act. You don't have a data protection law, and I strongly believe that data protection law will clearly deal with issues relating to surveillance.
Okay, Doctor, thank you very much. Before we move on, let me make clear to the audience that they can ask the questions right now. Alors, chers amis présents avec nous à ce webinaire, vous pouvez...
Dear attendees, you can raise your hand to ask questions. We will take note of them and then answer them.
Carry on. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me, Francis?
Hello?
Yeah, move on. Yeah, continue.
Yes, okay. So like I was saying, within the context of the MRCG, by way of our monitoring of online digital rights and security, we have not got any reports of surveillance. But I mean, at least in recent times. But then the 2020 U.S. State Department report talked about credible reports of governments monitoring private online communication without appropriate legal authority. There is also the issue of the data protection law I talked about a few minutes ago, and then how digital surveillance or hacking will affect the work of journalists, of other people. So, for example, they're exposed to threats, attacks, and things affecting their output. So, what we tend to have generally is that the protection of the cyberspace, which I mean, there has been argument as to whether there should be protection. Of course, I mean, there are some things that happen on the cyberspace that will need some level of protection or regulation. But the point has to be made that any such regulation or any such attempt to control the space that affects freedom of expression is something that we should not tolerate, is something that we should not support as people who are press freedom advocates. And within our context, another thing that I would like to point out is that I'm not sure we've gone to the point of understanding and utilizing technology to the extent that we're able to clearly see issues around surveillance, because they are mostly done in some kind of secret ways or in some kind of hidden ways, which is why monitoring the space, taking records of what happens within the space, I mean, provides the kind of data and the kind of evidence we'll need to advocate around this. But clearly, there are challenges around that. We've had laws around those issues, and the most recent one is held about a year ago. I think as we move along, we'll begin to see the real picture of how things happen within the digital space.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Francis Soa from Sierra Leone. Now let me share with you some of the statements from our audience. This one comes from Lucien Wedanou, a journalist and media expert based in Côte d'Ivoire, who says this webinar is an interesting one. According to him, we should put a stress on the training. So training should be a part of training, digital training. Yes, digital training on safety and security should be part of journalism training, so as to avoid, let's say, yes, for journalism to face some of the problem related with online harassment and digital surveillance. On that, I will put this question to Dr. Paré. Dr. Paré, vous êtes là?
Dr. Paré,
vous êtes là?
Are you there?
Let's go to Scott Johnson from Liberia. Johnson, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So one of our, let's say, participants from Côte d'Ivoire said we should put a stress on the training of journalists, safety, digital training. What will be your take on this issue?
Yeah, I think I said that in my previous statement. We need to be able to continuously train journalists into digital safety. Is something that, as I said, the harassment has elevated from the physical, because the powers that be know that if they harass you physically, a lot of other interferences will come in, and they wouldn't, get the needed publicity they need for their government or whatever. So now they are taking the harassment to the digital space, where it is quiet, it is personal. You might not even understand that you're being harassed, in where it's mental, it's psychological, and you just block yourself off. So if we train journalists into detecting the security, safety and everything, we'll be able to continue to continue the work we do as journalists.
Thank you very much, Scott Johnson from Liberia. Now let's turn to our audience. The floor is yours to have any contribution, any statement you'd like to share with us. À présent, ceux qui nous suivent, les participants,
let's give the floor to our attendees. If you have questions and contributions, they are welcome.
Hello? Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello?
Now we are going to, yes. Yeah,
if I may,
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So if I may quickly, as we talk about trainings, and there are a couple of recommendations I wanted to flag out for journalists, for human rights organizations, for governments, etc., etc. And I would like to point out that in all of those recommendations to the various groups,
please, Doctor, can we let that part? I mean, the recommendation just after the intervention of the from the ODS.
Okay, that should be fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Est-ce que vous avez des questions en ligne à nos différents panélistes, des questions à poser, des questions individuelles ou adressées à tout le panel? Nous vous écoutons. Just in case you have any questions, statement, intervention, can you please share them with us?
Dr. Saleh, so I have about 3 people in here who have their hands raised. I'm going to allow them to talk, starting with Ibrahim Traore, if you are good with it.
Thank you very much. Okay, it's okay. Yeah.
All right.
You have the green light.
Okay, Ibrahim, please speak. I have asked you to unmute Ibrahim Traore.
Ibrahim Traoré, s'il vous plaît, venez prendre la parole.
Bonjour. Vous me recevez, j'espère.
Good morning. Can you receive me? Can you hear me?
Bonjour, vous me recevez?
Ibrahim, on t'entend parfaitement. Tu peux poser ta question.
We can hear you. You can ask the question. I would like to congratulate this initiative and also the panelists for the quality of their input. I would like to ask Dr. Charlie Martial Ngunu. I think he's the one who's specialized in digital issues. Nowadays, we see that journalists use a lot their phone. They resort to digital media a lot. We should also work into fact-checking information. And when we are looking for this information on certain websites, they ask us to accept the cookies. And we all know that these cookies are not all safe. So what do we do to be able to access the information we're looking for and not accept these cookies that are sometimes compulsory? Thank you.
Dr. Nganu, the floor is yours. Thank you.
D'accord, merci, Brahim. Je pense que
Thank you, Brahim. I think
l'espace digital est déséquilibré.
The digital space is not balanced, and we have to acknowledge that. And if we can acknowledge that, I think we have a good start there. And when we go online, these technologies have a lot of strength on us. The power, those who use this online infrastructure are the ones who hold the power. And you can also notice that they also handle these infrastructures. I think I'm talking about this so that we can all see the state of this lack of balance. You see, Google, they have these C cables that we use to share our data. And it's not only about a legal or juridic aspect, because those people who are providing us this information are those who also have these cables undersea. So I'm asking everybody to work together. Those who work on technological ethics, that we all collaborate to push our states, our African states, because we are all African here, to push our African states to establish a continental legal framework that will be able to put in check those who have these infrastructures. You cannot tell a website that is asking you to accept these cookies, no. You cannot do anything about it. But then when we go on the global scale, there are legislation that are established
that are asking those who have this website not to condition access to their website based on cookies. And you can notice now that there are quite a number of websites where you can still refuse the cookies and have access to the website. But then always again, it's not everybody who listen or follow these rules. So coming to our at the continental level, that is in Africa, there's a lot of countries that do not do what they have to do. And if you can access information online, it's thanks to there's this Western legislation that have been put in place. And we can say that the US are working on a federal law to regulate access to information, but we just access these websites, and then these people, Google, Facebook, or Amazon, are free to do what they want of our information, our privacy. So I agree with you, we have an imbalance there. But then, well, what can you do when you notice that your states, our African state, cannot do anything about it? The Malabo Convention was signed in 2014. And do you know that actually in 2022, we already have 10 countries that have signed this convention. 14 countries that have signed this convention. And you can see that now our personal data have been collected. Well, and we are those who are not even bothered by what is happening. And we don't do what we have to do to put in place measures to protect ourselves. And when you look at the rules that have been established in other countries, you can see that these countries do not respect these rules.
Pendant plusieurs mois, pendant plusieurs années, parce qu'ils refusent de payer, l'idée pour eux étant de faire du business.
Merci beaucoup, docteur. Je pense qu'on va aller à la...
I think we are going to the second person quickly.
Hello, can we have the next intervention from the audience?
Okay, Dr. Sele, so I am allowing Lema Koli to speak. So Lema, you have the floor. Please be brief because of time.
Okay, thank you so much. I am Lema Koli from Liberia. And for the issue of digital harassment online, I agree with Madam Johnson and the other person that spoke about trainings. Yeah, because many a times journalists are harassed without knowing that they have been harassed. So when these trainings are conducted, it will lighten our minds, and we'll have better understanding on what we are doing online. Secondly, the issue of the app that he spoke about, having some app that will help to ease the that we have. I also support that issue, and I want to say that you people can see it as a major tool to work along with, because we cannot totally eradicate this stuff. So
can you ask a question now, please? We're running out of time, so can we ask a question now? Can you ask your question now? I think you have it's a question or intervention.
Question?
You said you have a question, right? Or it's an intervention?
It's a recommendation.
Okay.
Can I continue?
Yeah, very quickly.
Okay, so for the aspect of the apps, we usually use these apps on social media, and sometimes we don't really know the product. We don't really know these risks about it, because it has access to everything we have in our phones. So for us to have another app that will help us do these things, I see as a very good thing, and I wish you people can look at it as a very good idea to work along with it. and work along with us. Thank you for this webinar. It's so interesting.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we start with that last one, the recommendation? Since the Lama Collier has opened, I can see the door of recommendations. So can we start with the recommendation from our panelists? Is that possible? Or can we
Yes.
take the last question?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. If you may, if you like, I'll just point out some few things by way of recommendation.
Okay.
Yes. So let me start with.
Francis, we can't hear you clearly. You may have some problem with your microphone. Can you
Yes.
fix that, please?
Are you getting me now?
Yeah, it's okay now. We can hear you.
Hello. Okay. So let me start with those of us who are into media advocacy and press freedom stuff. You see, our own very approach to press freedom issues is what I think should be revisited. We mostly talk about violations, we talk about intimidations, arrests, and detentions as and when they occur. So to my mind, this is a kind of advocacy that has to be sustained over time.
Dr. Francis, let me add that. Can we please break it down? Since we're coming now to the window of recommendation. The recommendation that can be made to the state, the media owner, to journalists, and to human rights organizations. If we can proceed like that. Thank you very much.
Yes. So let me start with the states. So all states move towards having cybersecurity law, whether we like that or not. That appears to be the new approach. So one first recommendation to states is to ensure that as they pass cybersecurity laws, there must be either provisions in them for data protection or they institute separate data protection law. That's the first recommendation I would like to put to states, and then also for states to ensure that they commit themselves to abiding by all international agreements and policies on human rights and freedom. So that will be the two broad recommendations for the state. Now, moving on to the media owners, of course, they have a key role to play in terms of seeking the welfare of their staff and those they employ. So to them also, I would like to put the following recommendations. Number one, that they should develop safety and security manuals for their staff to ensure their safety and security on digital rights issues. Second, that they should ensure that they protect their devices to avoid surveillance and hacking. That requires some kind of investment into technology to understand the space and how to protect their institutions and their staff. And then to the journalists themselves, that they have to be careful in terms of how they interact, how they take care of their devices, mindful of the environment, and then to protect their devices. And the big question we're talking about has to do with capacity, that they have to capacitate themselves with the required knowledge on cyber issues so that they are able to cope in this challenging environment. And then, of course, lastly, to the human rights organizations is to continue to advocate and monitor digital rights issues. That is where I'm going to end with institutions like the MFW and other media rights organizations, that we have to even change our approach in terms of dealing with press freedom issues and digital rights issues. This approach of only coming out with releases, with condemnations when journalists are arrested or when their rights are abused online, it's good, but I think we need to step up beyond that. You know, I look forward to, for example, to seeing reports from the West African perspective on those attacks and arrests and detentions, but more so about things we can do even at the time there are no arrests and detention. So the way we deal with this issue must be before, during, and after attacks, and not necessarily when attacks are made. So in essence, I am calling for sustained engagement, sustained discussions, sustained advocacy on digital rights issues, and not necessarily one that will be limited to events that occur when they happen in different parts of Africa. So the human rights organization step
Thank
up
you very much.
in what they do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. On va pas, Maïmouna, vous êtes là, du Niger.
So back to Maimuna from Niger. Maimuna, can you hear? Can you hear us?
Mali,
Okay, let's go to Mariam from Mali, who is with us. Microphone.
Allô, Mariam, vous êtes là?
Allô, je suis là.
Oui, alors nous arrivons
I'm here.
maintenant avec assez rapidement en 1 minute.
So we are on recommendations. What are your recommendations to the government, states, and media outlet owners, to journalists, and also to media, human rights organizations?
Bon, les recommandations pour moi, ce serait
Well,
quand même
as far as concerned, is that journalists work freely, and there should be a synergy between government and journalists to cleanse the digital sector, the digital media, so that those who are really trained and the professionals
pour une presse
would be
digitale
able
ensemble.
to
Ça, c'est ma
work.
recommandation.
That's my recommendation.
Il faut des formations.
Of course, that will imply training, sensitization, and the state should be aware of the fact that journalists are also the watchdogs of good governance, and the state has to see us as watchdogs and not opponents, so that we can all take up this challenge together when it comes to digital media.
Liberia, Scott Johnson. Johnson, are you there? What will be your recommendation? I mean, what recommendation can you make to the state, to media owner, to journalists, and to human rights organizations?
So I will start with the state. To the state, I would say it is good that because we are taxpayers, it is good that you subsidize the media so that the media can have some resources to be able to fight cyber crimes and be able to protect themselves from cyber security. So media owners, I know it is hard, but in as much as you provide physical security for your computers and for your newsrooms to not be broken into physically, it's also good that you can provide digital security for your equipment, for your journal, for the tools the journalists will be using, and then to it is necessary. I will continue to build the capacity of journalists so we as journalists can be able to detect the issue of cyber crime, cyber security, and everything. At least if we have that as a basic knowledge, that we have our basic journalism knowledge, we'll be able to protect ourselves and we'll be able to detect our lights and protect ourselves. And then to us journalists, it is good to have security minded, to be security minded, have some ideas of internet security. Don't just log onto any app, don't download just any app, don't go to just any website, because those are the websites or the apps that people can use to have surveillance on you. So it could be self-security is safety is first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Merci. Maintenant, Dr. Charlie Martial, Lulu from Cameroon. So what are your recommendations, please? Hello? Dr. Charlie Martial, you there? Hello? Dr. Charlie Martial, you still with us?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your recommendations to the state, to media owners, to journalists, and to activists?
Yeah, I have two main recommendations. One is
just after you will go to Paris.
Hello?
I say after your recommendation, we'll turn to Paris Syriac from Burkina Faso. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My recommendation here is that given all the constraints that we've just noted, we know that it won't be easy today to change the judicial system, to change our democratic system. Those are very long-term goals. So we need to tap in low-hanging fruits. And for me, is that we have experts in technology, in digital technologies. We have journalists. If we would like to see very fast improvement in this domain, we just have to team up together under Media Foundation or anything else, I don't know, but to make sure we have these sessions regularly so that we can train our journalists using our own little resources while we improve our working, to influence the context where we live. So that would be my main recommendation. The next one being just an advice to journalists that we keep being professional, even though the space is is full of crooks, as we know. But let's keep being professional, because it's our professional tenure that will give us, to be strong and then to have very maximum impact in our context. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alors, Dr. Paré du Burkina Faso, vous êtes là avec nous, Dr. Paré?
Paré from Burkina Faso. Back to you. Yes, I'm here. So, we will be our last panelist. What are your recommendations for our government, states, media owners, head of journal, media outlets, and then journalists themselves? I think that's a lot of stakeholders. In Burkina, we started an advocacy with the government to revise the legal framework in Burkina. As I told you, the penal code has been revised in 2019, which has made things difficult and tough for us. I think Media Foundation and other bodies in the sub-region and on the continent could take up the advocacy challenge at the level of our states to harmonize our legislations in Ghana, Togo, Burkina, in other countries. It's the same reality. We need to have a synergy of our work so that we can harmonize our legal framework. Also, do an advocacy with telecoms companies so that press companies are funded to consolidate their economic environment, as we saw with the European Union that was able to have funding from Google and Facebook to support media. I think we are still providing information freely to readers. I think there is an advocacy that must be conducted so that we have more means to help our media
outils de travail et même de sécurisation de leurs outils de travail. Quant au législatif, je le répète, avec des structures régionales comme Media Foundation, d'autres structures, je pense qu'on peut plus facilement mettre en place.
I think with bodies like Media Foundation for West Africa, we can easily put up a legal framework that goes beyond our personal states. Because when you look at Facebook and other social media platforms, they are transnationals.
Donc, c'est un plaidoyer qui peut être plus
So this is an advocacy that can be handled by Media Foundation for West Africa and other organizations of the sort to help countries and media at the legal and economic level.
Alors, merci beaucoup, Dr. Paré.
Thank you, Dr. Paré. We are at the end of our webinar, and before I give the floor to Media Foundation, I want to say that it was a pleasure to be part of this panel with you, Dr. Syriac Paré, Mariam Kone from Mali, Dr. Francis Wa from Sierra Leone, Mariama from Niger, Dr. Ngunu from Cameroon, and Siata Scott Johnson from Liberia, who is the president of Women Association of Liberia. So we spoke about security of journalists online and online harassment of journalists, as well as the state of the media in our individual countries. I will now give the floor to the Media Foundation, the headquarters, that will close this webinar. Thank you very much.
Are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Dr. Sulaimarius, thank you very much for accepting to moderate this very important discussion. It's been quite enriching. It's been very interesting. We would like to thank Mrs. Siata Scott Johnson from Liberia, Madam.
Liberia. Nous voulons aussi remercier Madame Maïmouna. Nous voulons aussi dire merci à notre représentant du Niger qui malheureusement a fait face à des problèmes techniques. Merci à
Francis Sowa from Sierra Leone, Charles Martial Ngunu from Cameroon, Afro Leadership, and last but not least, Dr. Syriac Paré from Burkina Faso. The Media Foundation for West Africa is very grateful for your contributions to this morning's discussion. We hope that we would be able to continue to carry these discussions forward and be able to craft these recommendations and share them with the appropriate stakeholders to ensure a better digital environment for our media practitioners. For those who joined us as audience and made various contributions, we are quite grateful. Thank you very much. God bless you.